What's up, YouTube? False back again with another reaction video. Today I'm going to be reacting to which players are most likely to be moved at the trade deadline by NBA Central, aka CEO Hayes. So let's get into it.
With the NBA trade deadline only 49 days away, it's time to start looking at what players could be moved. In our previous video, we talked about teams that could be buyers or sellers at the trade deadline. Now let's look at what assets could be on the move during that deadline. We're going to get into all that and more right after this.
Place for your daily basketball fix, NBA Central, hosted by the one and only CEO Hayes.
Welcome to another episode of NBA Central. I'm one of the hosts here, Hayes, holding it down today for the team. And so I know it's been a while since I dropped a video, but I wanted to talk about what assets, what players, right, could be on the move at this year's trade deadline. We're only 49 days away from the trade deadline. And while I know that seems like a long time, with the way that the season's progressing, we're going to be there before we know it. And we've already talked about the teams that are kind of in the middle of the pack, teams that could look to either go completely in the tank mode and just be bad and increase their draft stock, or some of those middling teams that could look to make a considerable move to improve themselves. But on today's episode, I want to talk about some of the players that could be moved at that trade deadline. Now, one of the first set of players I'm going to talk about are actually on my team, and that's the Chicago Bulls. And with the recent rumor that came out about Alex Caruso and GMs being interested in Alex Caruso, while I don't think it's likely that the Bulls move Alex Caruso, he's a big part of just what they do. The ball movement there has been much better since he's been in the starting lineup. We know the defensive intensity and just overall playmaking ability on both sides of the ball that Alex Caruso brings. Yes, he doesn't take a lot of shots. He doesn't make a lot of shots either. Shooting about 42% from the field so far this season. But when you look at the Chicago Bulls, they are a team that really, depending on which way they decide to go, if they do decide.
Now, real quick, I didn't hear any rumors about Caruso, but today, so what's today? I'm confirming today is December 23rd. It's Friday. So today I noticed like a lot on my feed, my news feed, that a lot of rumors, I don't know if they were confirmed or not, that Zach LaVine is apparently a hot trade candidate, or teams are talking about potentially trading for Zach LaVine. I know the team's been playing like crap lately. I addressed it in two other videos and what their issues are, what their problems are, but I don't know. I highly doubt if the Bulls are to make a trade. Not saying they blow it up or they retool. I highly doubt Zach is going to be the first trade piece to go. But that's something I've been hearing about today. I didn't hear anything about Caruso, but Caruso is interesting because he has been struggling so far this season. Shot hasn't been really been falling, but he's not really known as a shooter anyway. He's a defensive guy. He's an energy guy. Um, so let's continue.
Decide to go even retool, not a rebuild. If they, God forbid, decide to go rebuild, they have a couple of players that could be on the trade block. One being Alex Caruso, another being Nikola Vucevic, who is on an expiring deal, and the other one could be DeMar DeRozan. Now, DeMar DeRozan would be a play more for teams that are kind of maybe a little bit in that play, maybe a little bit outside the play, and that are looking to maybe get in that top four, maybe increase their chances to make it to the second round or a conference finals appearance. And so I do think that while unlikely, I still think it's unlikely that the Bulls make a major move. I would be remiss if I didn't mention any of those players. Now, I know there's been some rumors recently about Zach LaVine and him going in to go to the Lakers.
Okay, he does address it.
I broke that down. There's not really much to be said there, in my opinion. There's not much legs to that rumor. But, depending on what the Bulls could decide to do.
Comment section, guys. Let me know what you guys think about that. I don't really know what the Lakers are gonna do. I know AD is injured again for like the 30 billionth time in a row. Let me know your thoughts on the AD situation. If you think they end up trading him, or what do you think his future is in the league at this point? I don't know. He's not a superstar anymore. If he's healthy, maybe he's still at an all-star level, but I don't really know what you get out of AD at this point, or what his trade value is. He's not super low, I guess, yet, but he's questionable. He's kind of like in that, for us, for Bulls fan, that Lonzo Ball gray area right now, where you don't know what's really going to happen with him. You're just waiting to see, kind of. But I don't think AD is his injury currently, I believe, is not a season ending one, but I know he'll be out for at least a few weeks. So let's continue.
Depending on if they do decide to pick a direction, do they want to go younger? Maybe not be a playoff team right now. Those type of things. There could be some moves made, and this team, even if the Bulls do decide to retool, right, and increase their chances to make the playoffs, and get higher in there, they could look to use Nikola Vucevic's expiring contract for some of these other players. But I wanted to do that. But let's move off of that. One of the players that has been in trade rumors for, it feels like years and years and years, is Eric Gordon. Now, a report did recently come out that the Houston Rockets are more keen to move Eric Gordon than they have been in the previous 2 years. Still seems like they're asking for not a super steep asking price for him, but they do want to get considerable assets back for him. So even though they're more willing now to trade Eric Gordon than what they have before, teams around the NBA know what Eric Gordon brings. He brings a player that can score for you off the bench, do some distributing, especially if you do have some other playmakers down there. He can fit in on almost any roster. Now, it seems like they're looking for a future first-round pick or a young player.
That's crazy to me. You're not getting a first-round pick for a bench player. Come on now.
To that, we could see them maybe even back down off of that. We'll see. Now, again, he has a high salary at $19.6 million. So any team that does trade for him is going to have to at least match that salary. So we'll see what happens with that. But I do think Eric Gordon is one of the trade candidates from this team. Now, we had a report also coming out today that Trae Young could be one of the players that does ask for a trade. Now, I'm not talking about Trae Young. I'm not going to put him on this list. But John Collins is absolutely a player that I'm going to put on this list. Again, he's basically been asking to be moved since he signed that deal, more reportedly.
Yeah, that's a crazy report to me. Trae Young? He's your franchise player. Why would you try to trade him? I don't know if he's unhappy. That's just a BS rumor, but that's highly doubtful. That's like the Zach LaVine situation currently for us. I highly doubt Atlanta would move off of Trae Young. He's a young franchise player. Doesn't make sense to me right now. I highly doubt that.
It seems like his role has been shrinking in Atlanta as well, not having as much of an impact as he had the year before he signed that contract. Now, the thing with Collins is he's in the second year of a 5-year, $125 million contract. But with the salary cap expected to rise soon and a new TV deal coming down the pipeline, teams could absolutely look at this and say, hey, we can do worse than a power forward who's averaged 16.2 points per game on 56% shooting and 77.8 rebounds in his career. So it could be that we can see there's been rumors of teams like Atlanta, Indiana, Dallas, and Phoenix all being interested in John Collins. He's definitely a player that we could see on the move by the trade deadline. Next one up is Kyle Kuzma, another young athletic power forward, averaging over 20 points per game, over 7 rebounds per game on the season. He's shooting the ball about 35% from three-point range so far this season as well. And his defense has taken a nice uptick. He's not a lockdown defender by any stretch of the imagination, but he is a solid defender. Now, he does have a player option for next season for $13 million. So, because of that, it may be some risk there. I don't see him opting out of it, but he very well could opt out and then look to sign a longer-term contract. So, teams that could even be interested in him in free agency if he did decide to go that route.
My last video, that's somebody I said the Bulls, if they were looking to retool, shuffle the roster a little bit to try to salvage this god-awful season that we're having so far, that's the player I was saying that we could go after in Kuzma. Put him at the 4, maybe put P. Will back at the 3. Of course, you're going to have to get rid of DeMar at that point. I say you keep Vooch for now, play out the season. See, if you don't get anybody better, there's no reason to move on from Vooch. I believe his contract does expire at the end of the season, but I would resign him. Vooch is still a talent in this league. Even though he's not, good defensively, he's still, if they used him the proper way, which currently as the team construction, in my opinion, I would say Vooch needs to be your number one option because there are a lot of nights where he's either hot, he's cooking people, or he has the size advantage. There's no reason not to be feeding them the ball.
Route could look to trade for him to get his bird rights, which would allow them to re-sign him and talk extension with him. So not John Collins. Kyle Kuzma is another one to put on that list. Jay Crowder is the next one up, and he's one that we all know. He's been on the trade deadline since training camp's open. Nothing's been moved there. We'll see what ends up happening with him and his $10 million contract. Again, I do expect him to be moved. He's probably the most likely at some point, because Phoenix is incentivized to get rid of that contract, they just have to come off that asking price a little bit, in my opinion. Bojan Bogdanovic is the next one up on this one. There's some saying that he could be traded. There's some that's saying no, they extended him because they wanted to keep him. But it seems like there is some possibility that they're open to trading Bojan. Now, do I think that's likely? He's later on this list because I don't necessarily see him being moved, but I can understand that that's a young team that's not going to win a lot of games. He's a veteran that could help any team in the NBA. Bring some shooting, bring some defense, bring some scoring, things like that.
Potential target for the Bulls. Could use some shooting.
But absolutely a player that could be on that trade deadline and trade block in the next 49 days. Next one up, Miles Turner. Now, Miles Turner seems like as well a player that's been rumored in trade talks for at least the last year and a half, if not longer than that. Now, he is having a damn good season. And one of the things with that is looking at where the Indiana Pacers are, right? A team that is right now slated to be the 8th seed and be in that play-in tournament. So there's something could be said about, especially with the chemistry of that team, that they could look to keep him, even though they'll have to extend him. But I put him on this list because I do think it's likely that Miles Turner is traded. A lot of league execs expected Buddy Hield and Miles Turner to kind of be moved by now. So I do look at the trade deadline. They may not be moved together. I think so far this season you've heard, but mainly because of the Lakers, them as a package together. But I do think that Indiana could get more assets back if they do trade them in separate deals. When you look at the rise of Tyrese Halliburton, Benedict Mathurin, and what they mean to that team, even though Miles Turner is only 26 years old. Now, I understand it feels like Miles Turner has been in the league for a long time, but he's still a fairly young player with even what he's shown this season, still enough room to do some growth and development that he could be a hell of a trade chip for a team that's maybe in that middle, kind of where the Pacers are, in that middle of the pack, that playing area, that want to increase their chances in the playoffs. He could be that, but we could very well see the Indiana Pacers decide to hold on to him as well. So it really just depends. It says right now.
The Pacers, that's an interesting one. I think more likely, I don't know how talented he really is. If he's like a win now piece or like a team, like how Hayes said, like a team that's like a play in that wants to push themselves a little bit further. But I mean, I don't know too much about Indiana, so I don't know what their draft capital situation is, but I'm assuming they want a first round or more potentially for Turner. So, I mean, it's possible, but I think you still got to have some type of foundation to build upon. I don't really know their depth chart or who they have on their team, but I mean, it's possible.
We don't know if he necessarily wants out. He did just switch agents, so that could be something that you can look at there. But it seems like also there's been reports that he is open to staying in Indiana. So we'll see what happens with that. Again, he's a player that I'm putting on here as well. Jakob Poeltl is the next one up. And this is a player that I would love for my team, the Chicago Bulls, to trade for. When you look at him, yes, his numbers aren't kind of eye-popping or anything like that, averaging about 13 points, about 10 rebounds a game for San Antonio down there. But he's a player that can fit in almost any system. He's going to play on both sides of the ball. He's going to offer some scoring. And he's in the final year of a contract extension, only making $9.4 million. So for a team that is looking to trade him, matching salaries is not going to be that hard at all. And then that team could very well look to immediately re-sign him and have those bird rights and then go over the cap to sign him. The Raptors, Warriors, and Celtics have all come up in trade rumors for him, and all those kind of make sense, especially when you look at the Celtics, missing Time Lord, things like that. The Warriors, who are kind of just missing some things, and they lost some big games with Steph Curry out. And the Raptors, who reportedly the Raptors may be looking to move one of those young, long wings that they have on that team to kind of just fix the balance of that roster as well. So, again, something to be said there. Considering he's going into free agency, considering the Spurs are basically in a rebuild, they may not want to pay him. Not a player that's extremely old either, so they could be a world in which they look to keep him. But I do think that Jakob Poeltl is going to be a player that ends up being moved.
Just off the top of my head from that, that'd be interesting for the Bulls if we could, with the whole Raptor situation, if they're looking for a center, if we could give them Vooch, because I think he's on the expiring contract too for the end of the season. Get it, because like I've been saying, DeMar, as good as he is, it's not leading to winning basketball. So does it really matter in the end? No. So that would be interesting for the Bulls. I say with trading Vooch, we get one of their. I don't know how talented those young wings that Hayes brought up, but that'll be interesting. Potentially start them with P. Will, and then we trade Demar for something else. Uh, for Demar trading as far, it'll probably, in my opinion, be best to get a player because draft capital most likely it'll be a better team that wants Demar for a win now situation because he's an older player, but he's going crazy still, even at this age. So a good team won't have a high draft pick, and in a bad team, what are they going to do with Demar? His contract, I know, it's not too hefty, but it's hefty enough, and they're not going to win anything now, unless they just want him as a vet presence. But I mean,
The last one I'm putting on this list is Mo Bamba. And this rumor's been out. You know, the Magic, they just had a weird offseason when it came to Mo Bamba. They renounced his rights, end up re-signing him anyway, which was weird. When people once the rights were renounced, they expected him to be gone. They end up re-signing him, holding on to him, and then they haven't used him. Now, that's a part of the rise of Bol Bol, who's just had a great impact for that Orlando Magic team, and it's kind of phased Mo Bamba out. And when you look at the Orlando Magic, a team full of really tall players that are all better than him. You look at Franz Wagner, Paulo Banchero, Wendell Carter, all those players, Bol now at this point, right? All players that you project to be ahead of Mo Bamba in that lineup and in that depth, and already some of those players are playing out of position just to make room for all the young athletic bigs that they have on that team. You could very well see Mo Bamba being on the move, and even though he has not had the impact he had last season, there's enough there to say if you did trade for him, you could be getting a hell of a player who still has another year under contract. He signed a 2-year, $20.6 million deal, and he's a player that could very well be on the move. Let me know what you guys think about all this down below. Are there any other trade chips that you think are players that could be moved at the trade deadline? And what do you think these players are going to go?
thank you, Hayes. That's that last part right there. Mo Bamba, that's an interesting thing. Probably no playoff teams because that sounds like more of an experimental piece to me, a long term thing that you will work with Mo Bamba to see if he turns out to maybe like a top tier backup off the bench. I don't know if he's still starting material. I don't, from what Hayes said, it doesn't. I don't think he's starting in the lineup right now. I think he said Bol is starting. So I mean, potentially experimental. I don't think they would ask for too much. Definitely nothing crazy like a first. I don't know. I don't know if he's still on his rookie contract or deal. I'm not really sure. It's a little bit different from the NFL, but um, probably nothing higher than the second round pick, in my opinion, or a player of equal contract value. But thanks for watching, guys. I'm False. Like, share, subscribe. Subscribe to NBA Central. Shout out to Hayes, host of Chicago Bear Central, Chicago Bull Central, and all his other podcasts. Hope to collab with him in the future. Pretty cool guy from what I've seen. So, yeah, thanks, guys.